Are the Riders, do they have enough great players to make their coaches great? Because Craig Dickinson and Jason Shivers and Stephen McAdoo can draw plays all day long. But if they're not executed, not going to matter in 3 phases. So what is your take overall on that game on Monday?
Well, not often you see an 0-2 team favored by a double-digit point disparity, which speaks to the fact that the Argos lost 64-14 in week 1. The Riders should win this game. They're at home. They're the better team. And oddly enough, who would have thought that after week 2, the offense would be the least of the concerns as far as the Saskatchewan Roughriders? The defense played pretty well in the opener against Hamilton, terribly against Ottawa. The special teams have been horrible in both games. In the opener, the Riders, the offense wasn't particularly potent, but they had the ball for 36 minutes, 5 seconds. And then people saw what Cody Fajardo did last week. So I think if you look at that Rider offense against the Toronto defense that appears to be vulnerable, there's no reason to think the Riders won't win this game, and perhaps handily. That's a dangerous trap to fall into when you're talking about an 0-2 team and almost presuming a victory, especially when you look at the Rough Riders and their hit. This is a team that lost to Montreal at home last year. But they should win this game, and it probably shouldn't really be that close.
Well, I'm sure. Can we bring in Jim Popp now? I don't want to keep him waiting. Is he ready to go? All right, we're going to go, I believe, to Toronto now. I certainly don't think they're in Regina yet. The general manager of the Argos, Jim Popp, probably very interested, Jimbo, in those comments from Rob Vanstone on Monday's game.
Well, Rod, that's what I would expect. When you're a local and you're in Regina, that's what you should be thinking, and everybody wanting to happen. Yep.
Jim, before we get in, Lynch, pull your headphones on there, right on your arm of your thing there. You can hear Jim. I want to just say, last night I was at the John Ryan Charity Golf Classic sitting with Alan Ford. And I know that's a guy that means so much to you. Can you tell our viewers this morning why he means so much to you?
Absolutely. I mean, if most people don't realize is I got my start in Regina. My first 2 years in the CFL were, 92 and 93. And Al Ford was in charge, and he was responsible for hiring me, him and Don Matthews. And I got my career started there, and I had 2 fantastic years before I went on to Baltimore to be the general manager. And Al and I and his family have stayed close ever since. From the time Al wasn't working for the Rough Riders anymore, I can tell you he's a diehard #1 Rough Rider at all times. But he also worked for us in Montreal, and he wasn't allowed to wear his Grey Cup rings in Regina, and he was allowed to pull for Saskatchewan every time we played him. But outside of that, I offered work back to him as he gave me a chance. So he, as a young man coming into the CFL, I had the 2 greatest teachers. I say this all the time. Al Ford was brilliant and helped me in the front office part. Don Matthews taught me the game, and I was smart enough to listen to both men, and that's helped me in my career.
I laugh because around Regina, Al was scouting for the Alouettes, but still wearing Rider golf shirts. I'm like, what? I know you're working for that wouldn't surprise you. But Jim, your dad was a football man too, was he not?
Yes, my father coached at every level. He started as right out of college he was a tremendous athlete. He was an all-state 3-sport athlete in high school out of the state of Pennsylvania and Western PA. Went down to North Carolina for his college and played 2 sports in college, and then he went right into coaching right out of college as a high school coach. Great success, went to the NCAA, great success, went to the NFL and other pro leagues in between. So he retired with the Cleveland Browns in 91, and then he's passed away now, but I was fortunate to have that in my background and upbringing between him and my mother, who was a tremendous businesswoman, in my family. That I always talk about my family as helping me in what I do, because my brother is television, news, media, and my sister is a international lawyer. So I take all aspects of the 4 of them, and it helps me in being a general manager.
Well, I know that it's that your family is something special for sure, and it's what I love about this show is being able to ask questions like I just did, and have you don't get asked questions like that very often. I don't think.
No, not often. No.
Yeah, on a day-to-day basis. But now to the football. Just what is the Argos organizational opinion going from week 2 to week 3? We all saw what happened on Saturday, and frankly, because I love Chaim, it was feeling tough for you guys. How do you rebound?
Oh, you have to throw that game away. You learn a lot from the film. I mean, obviously, we came out of preseason feeling very good. We had 2 great preseason games. We had a great training camp. We had a bye week, which was helpful for us coming out of training camp because of some injuries. We really didn't get injured guys back for the first game, but we seemed to be very sluggish the week leading into our first game of practice, and then it seemed to carry over into the game. I give Hamilton a lot of credit. They played, I thought, an excellent game, and I don't think we played very well. And when you couple that together, especially in the second half, about anything and everything went wrong. We had 12 injuries during the game. I had 4 concussions. We were playing with 2 linebackers playing in the secondary as the game went. And there's just a lot of things that added up to get 64 points on the board, but probably the most noticeable thing watching was we were just atrocious tackling on defense, and offensively we didn't do that bad. We shot ourselves in the foot a few times, whether it was a interception or miscommunication with the receiver and quarterback. But overall, obviously a poor game, a poor home opener, and we expect much better results than us coming out on the to play this week.
Well, you know how, Jim, football's so much mental and intimidation, but it's also one play at a time, at the most one game at a time. So is there carryover, anger, chip on the shoulder for you guys? Or I guess you kind of said it, you want to forget it, right? That's not going to be on your minds Monday in Regina, I wouldn't think.
Well, I think you've got to learn from it. I mean, that anytime throughout a course of a year, I mean, every week's a learning lesson, and especially early in a season. I think when you look at the Toronto Argonauts and you look at the Saskatchewan Roughriders, they both had head coaching changes. As soon as you make a head coaching change, there's a different demeanor. There's player changes, staff changes. We didn't have the benefit of having mini camp this year at all with vets. So, is it a surprise to everybody that maybe someone starts different? We weren't favored last week, but we surely weren't 50-point underdogs either. So we expected much better. We expected to win. We expect to win this coming week, just like I know Sask expects to win. So at some point, we got to get on board. The funny thing going into this week for all teams, even though we've only played one game, there's 4 teams undefeated heading into this weekend, and there's 5 teams that haven't won a game yet. So 2 of us are still in the playoff hunt, just based off 2 weeks of the CFL and still right there. So we got a lot to learn from it, and we expect to be a lot better. And it's not always how you start; it's how you finish.
Jim, John Lynch here. What's your situation without quarterback? Has Franklin been given the starting job?
Well, he hasn't been given it; he's earned it. So he came into camp. We feel we have a better situation than some teams in the CFL. I mean, obviously, if you've got a marquee player or guys that have just developed into a marquee player in a system, then someone would say they have a better quarterback situation. But between James Franklin and McLeod Bethel Thompson and Dakota Prukop, they've all got several years of experience in the CFL now. I mean, this is one reason Cody's not here right now. And Cody, as you saw last week's a good quarterback. So you go through these situations. But James came in here a year ago, and as the record shows, there were certain things that went on. There wasn't a great chemistry between James and the head coach or the system. It takes both parties to tangle, so we needed to get that cleaned up. And but between James Franklin and McLeod right now, and even Dakota, they're all capable of winning football games for you. We just need to function our system and do it the best we can. And we didn't have tremendous success last week on offense in regards to getting the ball in the end zone, but we threw for more than 300 yards, and we just didn't get the points on the board. But it takes 3 phases, as you men were talking about, and we got beaten all 3 phases.
Jim, you referenced Cody, obviously that tremendous game against Ottawa last week. You know him very well. How do you assess what he was able to do for the Rough Riders last week, and what does he give them going forward?
Well, it should give him a boost of confidence and Cody confidence. I mean, he got a chance to play, and he put up some numbers and threw the ball well. When he's able to use his legs and his athletic ability like he is, I mean, we all know that he has that ability and capability. So, what happens, which I've seen a lot of times in the CFL through my years, a lot of quarterbacks who end up spending 4 or 5 years backing up finally get their chance between 28 and 30 years old. The game slows down for them. They might get in a system that fits them better. And then all of a sudden, or a coordinator that gets the most out of them. And then all of a sudden, it's just a matter of confidence and stop making mistakes. And then it takes off for them. So we'll see if that happens consistently for Cody and or for James Franklin or McLeod Bethel Thompson or even Dakota Prukop. But it's, all of them are, to be honest with you, are all capable quarterbacks that have had success in the CFL.
Jim, I know how busy you guys are. We'll let you go, but I just want to tell you I appreciate you. Looking forward to seeing you on Monday, and good luck Monday and with the season.
Yeah, thank you, and good luck to everybody. Let's stay healthy, and let's have a great season for both cities.
You bet. Thanks, Jim.
Thanks for having me.
Jim Popp, the general manager of the Toronto Argonauts, and you're seeing RV why people CFL fans in general would love this program to have. Like, I'm a huge Jim Popp fan, so maybe not everybody's as excited as I am to watch him, but it's pretty cool to have these guys on.
Real neat, really neat. And he handled it very well, because he's under a lot of pressure there. And that was embarrassing. That was really embarrassing, especially when you're honoring an all-time great Ricky Ray and biggest crowd they've had in a long time there, 16-7. And they lay an egg. And I don't know how that egg got laid, but it was terrible in that second.
Well, for sure. But the general manager, Rob, has nothing to do with that. I wouldn't think. He can't affect the game once they get out there.
No, the work is largely done by that point. What can you do except sit there and stress over it? But if you look at the Argos, there should be more, at least offensively, that team can offer and can put forward. If you look at James Wilder, Armani Edwards, S.J. Green, Darrell Walker, if they can get even average quarterbacking, they've got a lot of weapons there. But you would expect that. I think James Wilder had 6 carries last week. Now, part of that was dictated by the score, but the Argos were still in the game for the first half. I would think if the Argos can stay close and if they can mix James Wilder in with some of those receivers, that's their chance to make matters interesting. It's a little, as I mentioned earlier, it's a little scary when you start presuming a victory, considering the unpredictable history of the Rough Riders and the nature of the CFL. You should never really regard anything as a given. 1989 West Final, but it seems to add up that the Rough Riders should win handily, but there's always that little birdie in the back of your head saying, "Okay, hold on. You're talking about the CFL. You're talking about the Rough Riders. Nothing is a given."
Yeah.
And there's some things that the Argos can do to make that game interesting. Will they be able to do it? That's another question.
Hang on, Joe. We got a break. It was one game for Toronto with an entirely new coaching staff.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it was one game. I'm sure that's what they would like to say. It was one game. And they would love if the Riders and their fans are taking them lightly coming in here for Canada Day. But we'll talk about that and more. By the way, I've always said the 2 coolest guys in the CFL are Jim Popp and Corey Chamberlain. And now they're together in Toronto. Cool, I know, doesn't get you wins, but I think they got something special going on in Toronto, and it would be silly to write anybody off after one game.
You're watching Rod Pedersen On Demand. For more of The Rod Pedersen Show, visit rodpedersen.com or follow Rod Pedersen on social media.